Hi, welcome to the session. This episode, we're going to look at Wonder Woman's theme for Batman vs Superman and how to recreate that in Logic Pro. Despite what the critics say, I really enjoyed Batman v Superman, and I really enjoyed the music in Batman v Superman, especially Wonder Woman's theme. It's called Is She With You? And it features an electric violin, or maybe a violin that's put through distortion, and it really captures that visceral, aggressive Amazon in her. So let's check it out. So this is the project for Is She With You? And I'm gonna just play it from the start. So there you have it. The BPM is 143 BPM, and something interesting about this song is that the time signature is 7/8, and that's why it's got this very interesting rhythm about it, like pom 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 pom, which I think is really cool. So let's get to it. Let's start with the percussions. So, as usual, I really like Trailer FX1, and it's got all these very interesting sounds. Big drum sounds, big hits that you can use, and what I did was I used these sounds. Just to give it a bit of that, bigness about it, right? And here we have the European folk kit, which you can find under World European folk kit. And yeah, here's how it sounds. It's got all these very nice big sounds about it, especially if you add a reverb, and this reverb, it's a pretty big reverb. It's actually under large spaces, halls, opulent ballroom. It's got this really big space about it, which is what the original track had. And I'm sending everything through that single opulent space reverb. So the Trailer FX is, it's not going through that. But the European kit is going through that. And this is just another part of the European kit. I just cloned the track. And nice big drums. That's what I really like about European kit. And if you add all those together, you get this. And the reason why I didn't send this one through a reverb is that the European kit has plenty of reverb already, and you don't want to sort of muddy up the reverb. This one is sort of just giving the weight. It's got a sort of reverb tail to it already, so you don't want to sort of add reverb to the reverb. And I think it sounds pretty great just by itself. I really like this 7/8 rhythm that they got going here. And I added these small drums, which are playing the 16th notes. So you can see them here playing this. And I used a studio toolkit, which I really like because it's got all sorts of little percussion tools that you can use. It's under drums and percussion, acoustic drum kits, studio toolkit. And here's how it sounds. Just toms, 16 toms. Doesn't sound very natural because, you know, there's no real round robin going on here and stuff like that. But that's what we got, so let's use that. I pan it to the left with a little reverb going here. And I paired that with an Asian kit that's panned to the right. So I like to pan things left and right so that you get a sense of width going about it. And let's listen to the Asian kit. Not particularly organic, but you know, put them together. And of course, what I did as well was that I transformed it with a humanize to 10 ticks, random, and then I selected and operated. And you get a bit of sort of more organic feeling putting them together. Still not too great. You get a bit of that typewriter kind of thing going. But if you put them low and you add them together with the whole big drums, it kind of adds to the whole sound. It kind of works. Now, the big drums, I always like to have a little bit of sort of a high end a little bit about it. So brushes tend to do the trick. They have that ch-ch-ch kind of thing going, a bit of a snare kind of feeling. And I use snares here. And I sent it to the bus as well. And of course, for this, I didn't want the snares to be too hard. So normally with snares, if I turn this enveloper off, you get a little bit of an attack. And it's not really suitable for this particular thing. Soft attack. Whoa, that's a lot of attack. Soft attack, regular. So I just wanted to get the tail end of it. And when you put that together with the big sounds, you kind of get a nice top end. You might not hear it so much, so I'm going to take out a bit of the big drums and just play a few of the drums and hear how it sounds. So with the European kit. And if you take it out, not so much top end with the snares now. A bit more complexity to the sound, which I really like. Now, so we got the drums for the big parts sorted. And they're pretty much repetitive, so you know, I just copied them over. Kind of works. Now, the main star of the show, the strings. What I gathered from the original version is that they had a violinist come in and then they sent the acoustic violin sounds through a distortion. And in this case, I'm going to use the EXS factory pop strings, Arco strings, because it's the solo string that you can get with standard Logic. I'm going to turn off everything, and here's how it sounds. It's not super fantastic, but you kind of get the bass vibe. So we know it's distorted, so I sent it through an amp. And in this case, I used a distorted mid-range shine, which I found to be quite close to the original sound. So you get this. It's starting to get it. If you notice, there's a bit of a weird sound to the strings when I play them. It's because, first thing is I changed the glide. It's now 30 milliseconds and it's a mono. So you only get one note at a time. You get this little slide. And that helps give a bit of that organic violin feel. And yeah, I think it works. So that's how I adjusted it. Remember, change it to mono and just put the glide to about 30 milliseconds, which I find that's what works. Now, I did something with the pitch bend. The pitch bend, I changed it to 3, which meant I could do this. Which means I could slide the note up with the pitch wheel and sort of get a bit more of that real violin sound, which is what I did as well. So I did a bit of channel EQing, not very much, you can see over here and here, just to get a bit of more high end and mid end. And of course, quite a generous bit of reverb. Not too bad. So if I play it with the... And the second section as well, it's got this really low growl that comes up with the pitch bend. So using the pitch bend in ways that work. If you listen to the strings, now with the pitch bend and everything, I think it's fair to say that it sounds pretty similar. It's quite sweet, Whatever it is, I think the mood is captured. It's got that aggression. It's got that whole distorted vibe about it. So putting it together sounds like this. Kind of copy it over. And now let's talk about the second section. Now, for this section, I did something that's a bit uncommon. Hans Zimmer has this little spiccato strings that go on. It sounds a bit like delay. I found that the strings couldn't really do that very well for standard logic. So what I did was I used a standard full strings legato from the strings library, and I added a tremolo. And these are the settings at a 16th rate, pretty deep with very little smoothing, and it sounds like. So it's a bit of a cheat, but the thing is, you're not going for accuracy here, you're going for feel, right? And I think that works out. So there's an orchestral kit here as well, under percussion orchestral, just to get the right sounds, because this part is much quieter than the start. So here's what we did. So it's more subtle, and those little snares are from the Studio Brush Kit. Most of these sounds, when you hear them by themselves, they sound a little bit, sort of mechanical, but when you put them together, they sound pretty alright. And as always, it's always good to humanize all these sounds just to give it a bit more, organic kind of feel. So with the strings on the tremolo, they sound like this. I didn't do any funky 4-part type thing here. I just decided what sounded good and just put them together. And if you notice, the strings have this automation about it, volume automation, because that's how we give it a bit more life. And when you listen to it, I think there's more sort of organic playing, a live feeling to it, more expression to it. And for the line in the slow section, I use a legato violin. I found that it's better than the legato viola because the tone was better. And I paired that with an EXS strings because just to give it a bit more body, because I find that EXS strings has that right body about it. So I paired that. And yeah, and I just copied the MIDI over, and I copied the MIDI over to another track, which is a French horns legato, one of my favorites, and just to fatten it up a bit. Just a bit of that. You can automate this just to give it a bit more expression to it. I didn't, but it's fine. And here, the basses start coming in. So this one is just a bass staccato that you can find in the orchestral library, strings, bass staccato. Going with the rhythm, and you can see this section here gets a bit bigger. So this section we have double notes, and it just keeps on going, getting bigger and bigger and bigger until these parts are the low ends that's just sitting below there just to give it that rhythm. So when you put it all together, there's this section as well. You can see that the full strings legato get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger just to give that vibe of, you know, like we're going to crescendo onto something really, really big, which is the second section of it. And you can see that the European folk kit does the same thing, just to give a bit of a crescendo. So there's a bit of automation going on the trailer FX as well, just to bring it up to the big section. So let's have a listen to that. The thing is, this part here, if you look at the MIDI, there's a lot of MIDI going on here, just more and more notes getting stacked on top of each other, but it helps give that fatness, that growing feeling towards the crescendo point. And yeah, I think it works. And this part here is very similar to the early section, except that it's bigger. So there are basses now supporting the rhythm. And there's this like cymbals. So there's cymbals on top of this, and there's another thing which is an Eastern solo. So for the melody, I added a double melody. I just copied the MIDI over, and there's this Eastern solo, which is kind of like a voice. World, Middle Eastern, Eastern solo. I take out this amp here because I felt like the solo at that section had a bit of that voice-like feeling. So I wanted to add a layer of voice on top of that, just to fatten it up. And I also sent it to mid-range shine. So together it sounds a bit fatter. And I hope you learned something useful today, like how to create organic sounds like a live violin through distortion using MIDI instruments, and how to use modulation and automation to create that kind of organic feeling. If you want a project, the link is put below, and if you like these videos, please subscribe for more. See ya!